all economic questions arise from scarcity. So we have unlimited wants. Like we want many things, but we only have a certain fixed amount of resources. So we need to choose what we want out of the amount of resources we have. So it's kind of like money. Like we only have, let's say, the average average single income in Canada is 40,000. That's like roughly. We have to choose what we spend it on. So like we could spend it on like rent, groceries, childcare, medical, etc. We need to choose. So we need to choose because we have limited income. Like we don't have a unlimited amount of income. So we're gonna choose what we spend it on. And choices depend on incentives. So there are rewards to encourage actions and penalties to discourage actions. So an incentive would be a commission if we were in sales. So we are incentivized to excuse me to make more sales by gaining a percentage of sales. Yeah. So like if we sell $1 million worth of products, we may get a 5% commission, say, so we make $50,000. So incentives are important for us to work harder. So economics and social science studies choices people make to cope with scarcity. So microeconomics studies choices of individuals and businesses. Macroeconomics studies national and global economies. So the two main economic questions are: how do choices determine what, how, and for whom goods and services are produced in what quantities? Does somebody want to try answering this question here? Does Alexandra want to try?
Sure. I think that we need to have a test or a target audience because it can be a narrow audience limited to a very certain specific number of public figures, or it can be widespread basic need like groceries. Everyone's going to buy groceries because they have to have food to maintain their metabolism. So yeah, I'd say depending on what industry and what target, we have to look at the amount of people that typically and regularly have the service or an item purchased.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah, target audience is very important. That's great. That's great, Alexandra. Excellent. And then, how can choices made in the pursuit of self-interest also promote the social interest? So, does Eleanor want to try doing that? Answering the question.
Um, if you like have a specific want that you're not sure like other people want or something like that, like to cure a disease that you have or something like that, and then you end up finding like the vaccine for or like a cure for the disease, and you're like, well, that also like helps the social interest as well because other people might need that later on.
Yes, a good answer, Eleanor. Exactly. That's a good answer. Thank you, Alexandra and Eleanor. Those are great answers for those two questions. So how, and for whom? So for Canada, there most of our economy is the service industry. So like Canada, majority of our economy is based in services. So lab work is a service. So like you could be doing like life labs, right? They provide a service in terms of analyzing blood, urine, etc., to determine like what illnesses you may have, or etc. So lab work is a type of service. So a lot of you who are interested in becoming like working in labs, that would constitute services. So, and most of the Canadian economy is services. While a very small percentage of the Canada economy, is agriculture. So it's very small here. But as an economy is less wealthy, agriculture becomes a bigger percentage of the economy. So so economies that are poor, the agriculture is a larger part of the economy. And then economies that are richer, services become a larger part of the economy. And then manufacturing is outsourced to nations that are developed. So like Ethiopia will be underdeveloped and Canada will be developed. So yeah, services are where, so in Canada, services have a lot of opportunities. So like work in labs, animation, arts, and areas of a service nature have a great deal of opportunities. However, work in manufacturing is limited, and work in agriculture is more limited. But there still is work in agriculture and manufacturing. But it's more limited than services. So two big economics questions. So the factors of production used to produce goods and services are land. That is one of them. Labor is the second. So that labor includes human capital. So that's your education, your skills, and that earns wages. And then capital is machinery, and that earns interest. And entrepreneurship earns profit. So those are the four factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. The entrepreneurs, so the entrepreneur starts a business, uses capital to make products. They pay interest on loans to pay for the capital, machinery. They employ workers, paying a wage, labor, and they rent land to do manufacturing/services. So all of that is incorporated to make a business. You need all four to make a business: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So the human capital, this is the graph of showing the amount of human capital we have. So university degree currently is about 20% of the population. Some post-secondary is about 40%. So roughly on this graph, present day, 20% have the university degree. So then 40% have some post-secondary. And then about 30% have a high school diploma roughly. And then about 10% have less than grade 9. So this is like approximations. So approximately, it's not exact, it's just approximate. So about 60% of the population has some some post-secondary university degree. So human capital has been increasing a lot over time. It's important to get these types of skills at the post-secondary level. As time has gone on, the importance of having post-secondary education has went up a lot. So as you see here, in 1975, about 35% of people had at least some post-secondary or university degree. And then today it's about 60%. It's like, so 2017 to present, more than 60% have some post-secondary or university degree. So as time has gone on, it's been way more prevalent to have that type of education. So two big economics questions. Choices made in self-interest are best for the person making them. Choices that are in the social interest are best for society as a whole. Society achieves sufficiency when available resources are used to produce goods and services at the lowest cost. So incentives are very important because it allows for us for self-interest, but sometimes self-interest and social interest are sometimes in conflict because you might be. So I'll ask the class this. I'll just share this again. So I'll ask the class this. When would self-interest and social interest be in conflict? So there's oh, go ahead.
When they have an opposite outcome or an opposite goal.
Yes, exactly. Can you think of an example of that?
Yeah, for example, environmental industry versus versus meat industry. For environment, it's poor to have livestock because it's 60% of carbon footprint, but for people to consume meat, we have to have a lot of livestock.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, exactly. So self-interest is profit incentive, but it's bad for the social interest because of the environmental concern. So that's a great example, Alexander. Thank you for that. That's a prime example of that. And then economic principles allow us to understand when self-interest promotes social interest, when they conflict, and policies to reduce these conflicts. So there's a lot of in economics we learn a lot about how to ensure that both interests are met. We can determine ways to allow for people to meet their self-interest while ensuring that the social interest is met. So a lot of what we do is prevent the self-interest from harming the environment or harming society. So we figure out policies to prevent the self-interest from getting in the way of social interest. So the economic way of thinking, each choice is a trade-off. So we give up one thing to get something else. And the opportunity cost of any action is the highest valued alternative forgone. The opportunity cost is the single most important concept of making choices. The rational choice compares costs and benefits and chooses the greatest benefit over costs. Benefit is the gain caused by our preferences. And then trade-off, big trade-off is between equality and efficiency. So government redistribution is done to government redistribution is done to allow for equality. We shift income from the wealthiest to poorest to make things more equal. However, the flip side of this is that it reduces incentives because people work less hard, like people that make high incomes work less due to taxes taking more of their income away. However, this is important. This needs to be done because the wealthiest earn a great deal of income from paying their workers substantially less than they create. So this is important. So taxing, providing higher taxes to the wealthiest is important due to the amount of profit that they earn paying their workers less than the workers create. So that allows, so the taxation is redistributed to the poorest to equalize the playing field because there's a big divide. Yeah, so that's important, but then again, it reduces incentives. So it's important to see a balance. So we need a balance. We need to ensure that people still are incentivized to make great deals of income while ensuring that we are redistributing income to make everyone earn a living income. So we need to balance it out. We need to balance that incentives are that people are incentivized to work hard to make great deals of income while ensuring that we're redistributing income to ensure that everyone makes a living income. So we need to make sure that both are met. It's very difficult to do both, but government is constantly working to do that. And it's very hard to do that, but they're working together in order to balance both at different levels of effectiveness. So that's the struggle government has. And then we make choices in small steps throughout the margin, and choices are influenced by incentives. So economic choices are made by comparing the additional benefit, marginal benefit, and additional opportunity cost, marginal cost. So marginal benefit exceeds marginal costs, we increase the activity. So it's important to look at marginal benefits and marginal costs because if marginal benefit is greater than marginal costs, then we need to do more of it. So that's a good way of determining if something is good for economy, and that's what the government is doing. They're comparing both marginal benefit and marginal costs, and then they choose only activities that bring greater benefits than costs. And this ensures that scarce resources are used to for their maximum net benefit. So if an activity has a marginal benefit greater than marginal cost, do more of it. And then only, so like you want to get marginal benefit equal to marginal cost, because that is the most efficient level of output. So you want to ensure that like you increase it. So increase production until marginal benefit equals marginal cost, because this will allow for the best outcome for society. So that's ideal right here. Yeah. So we'll talk more about that as the course goes on. So economics is a social science distinguishes between positive statements about what it is. It's all fact-based, so usually it's backed up by statistics. Usually you need statistics. So like for example, inflation is at 8%, let's say. So like you'd have to, so that would be a positive statement because you could back it up. And usually you would use an embedded citation. So maybe trading economics is your source. So that would be a positive statement right here. And then normative statements are statements about what ought to be. They depend on values and cannot be tested. So you could say inflation is bad for the economy. So that would be a normative statement. So it's a statement that you really can't test. There's good and bad parts of inflation. Like some inflation is good for the most part. Like 2% inflation is very good for economy. Low inflation is good for economy, but high inflation, very high inflation, like 8%, it's not good for our economy. But it's very hard to test this. You're not comparing it to anything else. The economy, when you say economy here, you're not referring to anything specific. You're not referring to GDP, unemployment, etc. So that it's very difficult to test. So that's what, so no, positive statements are usually backed up by statistic. Normative statements are usually you can't test it. So economics, it focuses on the economic world and focuses on positive statements. So economists try to discover positive statements that are consistent with the observed facts by unscrambling cause and effect, creating economic models. And that's a simplified description of the economic world that includes only features needed for the purpose of explanation. So we can test economic models through natural experiments, where one factor is different than the real world, other things are equal. Statistical investigations, correlation between variables, and economic experiments, putting people in decision-making situations and changing one variable to response. So economics is a useful toolkit for personal decisions. So you can use it as a determine trade-offs. So you could determine trade-offs. So what is the cost of going to university? Like going to college or university. So the trade-off is not working during the time you're in class. So that is a trade-off of not making income working. So like because you are in class. So that's the trade-off of going to school. The income you're not making going to class. So you got to make that personal decision. So you can look at trade-offs to make a personal decision. And then advising business and economic policy. So you could advise a business and economic policy through stating that the business will benefit society best if they produce at marginal benefit equals marginal cost. And advising government on economic policy. So you could do that for both government and business. And then normative policy objectives, you can determine solutions by evaluating marginal benefits and marginal costs. So economic problem is our next activity. And so production possibilities and opportunity costs. The production possibilities frontier is the boundary between unattainable and attainable production possibilities. It shows maximum combinations of output, goods, and services that can be produced within given resource technology. So anything to the left of the curve is attainable. So we can have any combination of cola and pizzas left of the curve. So with this, we have enough resources to have anything in here. We have enough resources to have any combination of cola or pizza on or left of the curve. So we have enough resources to do that. But anything right of the curve, we don't have enough resources to have combinations of cola or pizzas right of the curve. So in this case, A, we have 15 colas and 0 pizzas. It's attainable. That's there. And then B. So I'll ask somebody in the class, does Hannah want to try how many colas will we have for B? And how many pizzas will we have for B?
For B, we'll have maybe like 14 colas, maybe, and then 1 pizza.
Excellent. Great job. Perfect. Thank you, Hannah. And then for C, how many colas and pizzas will we have? Does Malika want to try?
For C, like 12 colas and 2 pizzas.
Yes, that's good. That's good. And I'm pronouncing your name. It's Malika, right?
Yeah, Malika.
Malika. Okay, excellent. Perfect. Great job. Great job, Malika. Excellent work on that. And then I'll ask Olivia, do you want to try doing D? How many colas and pizzas there will be?
It would be 9 colas and 3 pizzas.
Excellent. Great job. That was great. 9 colas and 3 pizzas. Excellent work. And then Sophia, do you want to try doing D? Oh, sorry, E.
5 colas, 4 pizzas.
Yes. Excellent job. And then F. Zachary, do you want to try F?
Yep, it should be 0 colas and 5 pizzas.
Excellent. That's great. Good job. Good job on that, Zachary. So yeah, we got all the. So this is how you would create a PPF. So you take this chart and just basically put all the information on. So all that information will go there. This information would go there. this information would go there. This information will go there. Sorry, I skipped one. So this information will go there. This information will go there. So that's how you graph it. And everyone in the class did a great job identifying what's on the chart from the graph. So great work. That's so you just graph it corresponding to all that information. Yeah, so great work everyone on that. So PPF characteristics. So points on the PPF represent production efficiency. So that's the outputs produced at the lowest possible cost. Points inside the PPF are inefficient. We can have what's in the PPF, but it's not efficient. We're not using the resources to the best ability. So we want to be on the line. We don't want to be left of the line. And going right of the line is impossible based on our current resources. Yeah. And they're usually outward, so it's concave, like what we saw with the graph there. And there's increasing opportunity costs, more of a good is produced. So I'll kind of make a similar, kind of an example of our lives, basically. So let's say we can trade off we can trade off so tickets to concerts. Let's say it's concerts, and then tickets to sporting events. Let's say we have that trade-off. It would look like this, and then our income would allow us to have any combination on the line or left of them, but we can't. So like we cannot have any combination of concerts or sporting events right of the line, because we don't have enough income for that. So that's important to know, like important to know that we can't have anything right of the line because we just don't have enough income for that. So that's important there. We can have anything on the line or left of the line, but but right of the line, we just don't have enough money. So to choose among points of the PPF, we can compare the marginal cost and marginal benefit. So we want to ensure that marginal benefit equals marginal cost, and that'll be best for society. So if we produce, it's usually in the middle. So we need to be on the line and in the middle in order to maximize efficiency. Marginal benefit equals marginal cost. So we maximize efficiency and equity in that case. Yeah. So it's important to be there. So here, marginal cost, marginal benefit. As you see here, in the middle right here, that's where we want to be to ensure that we're efficient and equal here. This is efficient and equal right here. And equitable. So that's important to be there to ensure both. So that's allocative efficiency. So right there, marginal benefit and marginal costs are equal. Right here. And then economic growth. So economic growth is the expansion of production possibilities. downward shift of PPF. So we can with this, we can afford more. So we can do this through capital accumulation and technological change. So as technology gets better, we can shift out. So how that would look is so we can afford more of each thing. So in this case, let's say X. So it could be like good Y and good X right here. And it'll shift out like this. So we can afford more of good Y and good X through capital accumulation and technological change. Gains from trade. Production increases if people specialize in activity in which they have a competitive advantage. So, so we'll go more into this. We need to produce at the lower opportunity cost of anyone else. So that's very important. If we're producing at the lower opportunity cost, then we're gonna have the most gains from trade. So we'll go more into that as we go on. Absolute advantage is when using the same quantity of resources, we can produce more than anyone else. So producing in products like that, that's very important. So here, this is information for Joe's production possibilities. Takes him 10 minutes to produce one smoothie, produces 6 smoothies per hour. It takes Joe 2 minutes to produce one salad, and then produce 30 per hour. So Joe would produce 5 smoothies and 5 salads, an opportunity cost of 5 salads per smoothie. Liz produces 15 smoothies and 15 salads at an opportunity cost of 1 salad per smoothie. So Joe can produce 30 salads per hour, 1 every 2 minutes. He can produce no smoothies. Or he can produce 6 smoothies per hour, 1 every 10 minutes, if he doesn't produce any salads. So his opportunity cost of a smoothie is 5 salads. And Liz can produce 30 salads and 30 smoothies per hour, and 1 of either item every 2 minutes. So Liz's opportunity cost of a smoothie is 1 salad. So in this case, based on their specialties, Liz can specialize in smoothies, Joe in salads. We'll go more into this as this semester goes on. It's just more of an introduction right now, but the general thing here is to gain from trade. Each person / country, let's say, has to produce the product that they have the lowest opportunity cost in and trade that product. That's the general of that here. And then they both benefit when they do that. So they need to ensure that they both produce at their lowest opportunity cost. And this will ensure that there's most efficiency in trade. So right here, this is economic growth. As I showed before, if there's economic growth, the PPF shifts out like that. And then to introduce the circular flow diagram, this is how the economy works. So you can join anytime. If you haven't joined yet, just join myquiz.com and enter the So what is the relationship between human capital, capital investment, and GDP? Does Malika want to try? So higher human capital and higher capital investment correlate with higher GDP. So it's beneficial for our economy to have higher capital, human capital, and capital investment. So these are good questions. So how do you measure your height? How do you measure the amount of drink you have in your cup? How do you measure the temperature outside? Those are good questions because we use similar questions to measure the economy. So we got to think about like how would we measure height? So how do you measure your height? I'll ask Olivia, how do you measure your height?
Like when you say height, like how tall something is that
Yes, yes,
like with a tape measure?
exactly. Yeah, so tape measure. Great job. Thank you, Olivia. So tape measure. So there's different ways of measuring things. So different ways of measuring things. So like height, we measure with a tape measure. With a tape measure. And then how do you measure the amount of drink you have in your cup? I'll ask Sophia, how do you measure the amount of drink you have in your cup?
You need to measure the volume in either milliliters or square centimeters or ounces.
Yes, good job, Sophia. Exactly. Measure the volume through milliliters or cm cubes, right? Great job. And then how do you measure the temperature outside? Zachary, do you want to try doing that one?
Using a thermometer.
Yes, using a thermometer. So as you see, there's different ways to measure all these things, right? So then how do you think the growth of an economy is measured? Alexandra, how do you think the growth of the economy is measured if all these other things are measured by different ways?
I would say that we need to quantify something. So it will be total production or total of something that we get. And in this case scenario, it will be economical growth versus the money that the government or the country lost during the production of it. And this is pretty much subtraction from total of the loss.
Yeah, that's great. Exactly. Thanks, Alexandra.
And GDP, right?
Yes. So GDP. Yeah, GDP measures how the economy is doing. Excellent. Good job, Alexandra and Sophia.
I
That's
thought
great.
that GDP is domestic production only, no?
Yes, you're right. So GDP is domestic production. They usually measure how the economy is doing domestically. They don't usually do like a world measure. It's usually by country. So GDP is how they measure it, but there's a lot of limitations to that because the problem is it doesn't look at quality of life. And quality of life is the most important measure, and we'll go more into that as we go on. So quality of life is the most important measure, but the problem is GDP doesn't really show that. So we'll go more into that as we go. So for this, the what I'll do is I'm just gonna take a snapshot of this, and then I'll share this in the chat if anyone wants to make notes on each of these on each of these rows as we go. I'm just going to I'm just gonna put this in the chat. So I'll put this in the chat for everyone. If you want to make notes as we go, feel free. So it's in the chat if you want to make notes as we go. So how is economic growth measured? Economic growth in the country is measured by the country's gross domestic product, GDP, in one. So yeah, GDP. And GDP is the total of goods and services produced in 1 year within a country. So it doesn't include products that are included. So GDP can show how one country's economy is doing to another country's economy, and how the economy is doing in a country over time. And it can show if an economy is growing or not. So if GDP is going up, the economy is growing. And then also, the US GDP is higher than Canada's. So roughly, based on this, it's approximation, the US GDP is roughly 10 times the Canadian GDP. So that's roughly it. Not exactly, but it's approximately. And you can check how an economy is doing over time. So the economy grows, the Canadian economy usually grows at 2% per year, usually. That's usually the growth rate that we see. So there are 4 main factors that influence economic growth in the country. So investment in human capital, investment in physical capital, land, natural resources available, and entrepreneurship. So human capital, investing more in education grows the economy. Physical capital, investing more in factories and machinery grows the economy. Land, natural resources available, like if we have a large amount of natural resources, our economy has a lot of potential. So like if we have large oil reserves, our economy can benefit. So and then the presence or absence of these 4 factors determine the country's gross domestic product for the year. Also entrepreneurship. If we have great incentives for entrepreneurs, e.g. like research and development incentives. So I'll let you know, Canada has an incentive for research and development called the SHRED credit. So like you get tax credits on research and development expenses. And it is quite significant. So like if you want to do research and development, work for your own business, you will save a lot on taxes due to the research and development expenses. So that's important because if you want to start your own business, you can benefit strongly from this. Yeah. And let me know if you want to learn more about the shred credits. I'll play a video on that. So for the shred credits, so I'll play a video on that just so everyone knows more about it.
Personal injury.
Shred credits. So investment in human capital, this can be through education and training. And how would investing in human capital impact the GDP for a country? I'll ask Eleanor, do you want to try doing that?
I would assume that the more people are educated or trained in a specific area, or like as you diversify your population to be trained in multiple areas, you'll be able to make a more stable economy because you're not specializing in just one specific trading material or something like that.
Yes, exactly. That's great. Yeah. The education training is so important to diversify the skill sets that we have. That's great. Thank you, Eleanor. That's great. So then what do you think happens when workers become better trained or have more education? Does Hannah want to try?
Honestly, I don't really know. I'm not very good at this stuff. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. You're probably great at it. So don't discount yourself. I'll ask, how about Malika, do you want to try answering that question?
Sure. I think if workers become better trained or have more education, they'll be able to work more efficiently. And so they would use less time and I guess get things done faster. So if they have to make a product, for example, if they work in less time, then that means they would have more product in less times and sales could be increased or something like that.
That's great. Excellent answer. That's excellent. Thank you, Malika. Perfect. That was a good answer. So human capital literacy rate and standard of living. So education levels in human capital, that's very important to producing more income. Then literacy rates are a very good measure of the amount of human capital. If we have a very high literacy rate, there's likely a large, there's likely a lot of human capital. So higher literacy rates show higher human capital. And usually higher human capital correlates with higher standard of living. Usually. So and it usually goes back and forth. So there's a lot of reverse causation there. So the higher standard of living can increase human capital through more means to purchase education opportunities. So and then it goes both ways. So higher human capital allows for more productivity, thereby leading to higher standard of life. So it goes both ways. It goes higher standard of living causes more human capital. More human capital causes more standard of living. So it goes up, one goes up, one goes up, and then the one going up causes the other one to go up. So it's kind of like it goes back and forth. And then, so this is a good comparison here. So Canada, the literacy rate in Canada is 8.6%. And the GDP per capita is $35,812 in this chart. This is a few years ago. Life expectancy is 80.6, and the unemployment rate is 6.8%. And then Haiti, the literacy rate is 52.9%. The GDP per capita is $1,400. Life expectancy is 57.56, and the unemployment rate is 40.6%. So in this case, Canada has a high level of human capital due to the high literacy rate, and it has a high GDP per capita, while Haiti has a low level of human capital due to the low literacy rate, and it has a low GDP per capita. So it is important to improve literacy rates in order to improve the standard of life. So I'll define GDP per capita here. GDP per capita is GDP divided by population. So it shows the standard of life of each individual on average in a nation. So it is the best measure of how well people are living in a nation. So with C partner, discuss what country you think has a higher standard of living. So we'll ask the class which country has a higher standard of living in this case.
Canada will have higher standard of living.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, Canada would in this case. And this is why having high literacy rates is very important. Like, it's not all the literacy rate that causes Canada's high standard of living, but it's part of it. It's one of the parts. There's a lot of other things, like a lot of it has to do with climate. A lot of it has to do with capital, machinery, entrepreneurship, lands. Like, a lot of that has to do with how Canada has a higher quality of life. But literacy rate is one of the things that allow for the higher quality of life. But there's many other things that cause the difference. So human capital, literacy rate, and standard of living. So it's important to for teaching reading in schools is really important. And so reading, writing is very important. And that can allow for improved work skills and making more money, and then that allows for improvement in standard of living. So educated and skilled workers are an important factor in the country's economic growth. This is why English is mandatory from grade 1 to 12, because higher literacy rates are needed for our standard of life. This is why they place so much importance in English / language learning / writing / reading in schools, due to the importance to the economy. So this is incredibly important. That's why That is why working in education is a great career, opportunity that you can look at. Like, if you want to work in education, you can provide substantial benefits to our economy through improving human capital. And there are many opportunities to work in education. So, so all of you in the class, if you're looking to work in education, there's a lot of opportunity, and you'll provide a lot of benefit to our economy. So that's definitely a good career pursuit if you do want to consider it. So investment in human capital is investment in physical capital. So physical capital is the factories, machinery, and technology used to produce goods and services. Physical capital, it allows for providing better facilities, resources, and materials for people who perform the labor. This allows for a more productive workforce. The natural resources are materials from Earth that are used to support life and people's needs. So that includes trees, water, oil, natural gas, sunlight, etc. So the more natural resources a company has, the more things they can produce and sell to other countries. Now, entrepreneurship, an entrepreneur is someone who has an idea for a product or service and takes the risk to produce it. So entrepreneurs are important because they can use human capital and natural resources to build a product / service and create a business. So it's the ability to start a business and how to set up a business. So entrepreneurship can be starting your own business, inventing something new, or changing the way something was previously done so it works better. The entrepreneurship, it can create jobs and reduces unemployment. It allows for people to take risks, create better materials, products, and technologies. So we'll do these questions. So what does the letters on GDP stand for? What economic growth factors the ability in a country to start a business? Great job, everyone. And then which economic growth factors when countries invest in their workers? And which economic growth factors the factors in machinery and technology used to produce goods and services? And which economic growth factors materials from the earth that are used to support life and meet Great job, everyone. Wow. Amazing scores, everyone. Wow. Great work. So great job, Zachary, Olivia, Alexandra, Ellie, Hannah, Sophia, and Malika. Excellent work. Great work, everyone. So we completed this PowerPoint. We'll do our next activity here. The